My name is Leroy Peeples, and I'm the founder of the PIM Project, which is Prevention, Intervention, and Mediation. Originally from Sumter, South Carolina, and came to Boston probably at 5. The Morton Street, Corbett Street area, Mattapan. Like my childhood was outside. Like I remember, playing football in the snow. Like that stuff right now seems to be like obsolete. Like I haven't seen a kids play football in the snow like ever since our generation did it. So what sticks out to me is really like being outside, being a real kid, riding bikes and playing in the street, like doing kid stuff. Mm-hmm. I lived at 110 Southern Street. It was a hallway, and we lived on the 2nd floor. So I didn't have a understanding of gang at that time, obviously at that age. But the group of guys used to hang in our hallway. So vivid memories of walking through at least 20, 30 dudes in a hallway, with alcohol, marijuana smoke. And I remember clearly, like, my parents used to come down and ask the guys if they can leave out because the smell would be in our apartment. Our apartment, our building, the hallway was their hangout. My path took me to the street. And I went to school, I went to work, but I still found time to get to the block. First job was on the block in the neighborhood that I grew up in, Ali's sub shop. Ali gave me a job cleaning the gates. You know how the fryer and then the steam goes up. So I would take those down and wash those. I had to be like 7th grade, 8th grade or whatever, and that was my first job, neighborhood job, in the neighborhood that I grew up with. And he did that because he was like, in hindsight, was like, I want to make sure he doesn't get caught to be one of the guys that's on the stairs right here, because they used to hang on the stairs. So unbeknownst to me at that time, he was doing the work. He was doing the work. The work that I do today, he was doing that for me and a lot of the young guys in the neighborhood. By Ali giving me that opportunity, kind of shaped me and showed me really what I should be doing. So when I finally figured it out, I was able to lean on that to say, okay, this is what Ali was doing for me. This is what he was doing for the neighborhood. So I pay that forward now. Another leader, mentor in the community was my high school principal, Mr. Wells. There was a big issue in the school with Haitians versus the young black boys, right? So it was this weird gang thing going on, and he tapped into me and was like, hey, Leroy, I need your help. So he was able to shift and show me, when you got people that look up to you and follow you and you're a leader, don't lead them wrong. Use me to squash and fix that feud, and I did it. And our relationship just became so tight. But then I understood what he did. And then after doing something like that and how I felt about that, it just always wanted me to do and lead, use my power positive opposed to using it negative. But that's lessons learned from Mr. Wells. So I was incarcerated in, I want to say 1990 for firearm. And at that point is when I realized that what I was told about prison and jail was fake. So prior to me being incarcerated, it was always about, oh yeah, don't worry about it, man, when y'all get locked up, we go upstate, we have our own table. So Walpole has like a table, a bunch of tables, and different gangs of individuals have their tables. So I've heard about the table in middle school, literally, right? So it was never nothing bad said about the table. It was never nothing bad said about prison. It was almost like it was glorified. It never was looked at as a deterrent. It was looked at as the next step, like, oh shit, we made it. We made it to jail. It's sickening, but it's so true. Why? Because nobody educated us on it was supposed to be a deterrent. It was supposed to be bad. It was supposed to be a negative. But in the hood, it was glorified and it was promoted and marketed as a positive. So the PIM Project came about, for me personally, was trying to fill a void. I know I didn't sign up for the life that I ended up being in. And I know these young kids today didn't sign up for it, but someone has to teach them how to get out. So that's what PIM came from. It was like, how are you going to prevent, how are you going to intervene, and how are you going to mediate issues in your community? You figured out, you personally figured out how to get out. You're obligated now to go back for the rest of your life and help young people figure it out. Now you're the teacher. Those are the answers those answers that I have are not in a book. They're not going to learn that nowhere. You have to go into your community and teach this now. It's like a big web, and you walk and you get caught, and if you don't have a village and a support system to help you navigate out of it, then you lose. So for me, PIM is that support system to help you navigate out of it, but more importantly, try to help you not get caught into it. Again, when we talk about prevention, we're talking about getting in at an early age, as young as 5, to try to prevent that type of behavior and the young guys getting into the life. My Mighty Mike program is based on 5 to 7-year-olds, and the idea came about when we was doing programming. A lot of people we were losing, meaning they didn't want to come because they had issues or with rival neighborhoods or whatever, and they just didn't feel like it was safe to be in the neighborhood. So what we did was strategically think of like, well, how can we get these guys together? How can we make it safe for everybody? And working with the guys that I work with, I would always ask them, you know, because safety is number one, right? And so my thing is, how do we get you safe? How do we take some things off the table so that you can feel safe? And we really had to think about it. And what it was I want to be able to be out with my kid and know that, you know, nothing's gonna happen. So I went to a bunch of the rivals, a bunch of the neighborhood gangs, the guys, to see who had kids. And my goal was, we don't get along, we're rivals, but what will happen if our kids are friends? Right? What do we do if we see each other in the mall and we both have our son? What are we going to do? And our kids are going to run to each other and hug them and shake hands. So the whole premise was, all right, go to the gangs and ask them, can their kid join the program? So now we don't get along, but our kid is in the same program. And then the program is like, we do skating events, we do a bunch of parties, we go to the movies, we do all sporting events, and we try to keep them together year round to just build friendship, right? Like a great friendship, but it's a strategic friendship, because what I'm really trying to do is make the parents see the other side, because they're never gonna be able to meet to be friends, because you're gonna stay on your side, I'm gonna stay on my side. But if someone came in the middle and our kids end up in the same program, we can be in the same space without it being violent.